Welcome back to Wisdom Journey, the podcast dedicated to inspiring through the rich stories of resilience, growth, and heart-centered leadership. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and today I'm honored to introduce a guest whose journey reminds us why we never quit on a bad day. Joining us is Phoebe Trotman, a celebrated athlete turned entrepreneur and best-selling author who has built her life and business on perseverance, teamwork, and unwavering dedication. As a soccer player, Phoebe earned championship titles and multiple Hall of Fame inductions, learning valuable lessons in discipline and emotional intelligence. In the entrepreneurial arena, she's leveraged those same skills to empower others, launching the Never Quit on a Bad Day book series and guiding countless readers through practical exercises in resilience. Whether you're facing setbacks in your career, creative projects, or personal life, Phoebe's story will show you how to embrace discomfort, push through doubts, and turn challenges into catalysts for growth. And stick around because later she will share a simple yet powerful exercise from our series to help you find strength on your toughest days. Yeah. Uh,
Yep,
um,
no problem.
yeah. Tell us about. Okay, I don't want to ask too generic of a question, but tell us about who you are, what you do, and yeah.
Absolutely. Well, first, again, thank you so much for having me on today. So, my name is Phoebe Trotman. I am an entrepreneur, a speaker, a coach, an author, and really just a person who likes to help people along their journey to find ways to navigate. Life is full of bumps in the road. And so I've experienced my own bumps. And one of the things I've learned is we have the ability to sort of choose how we move through those. And so sometimes I just like to share ideas and strategies that have worked for myself or other people that I know to help people navigate through the bumps in the road.
Your book, you call it Never Quit a Bad Day. Of all the titles you could have picked, why was it Never Quit a Bad Day?
The reason I chose that title is that saying has always stuck with me through my journey as an athlete, journey as an entrepreneur. And most of the time when we quit something, it's typically when we're having a bad day or we have negative emotions surrounding something. We might be frustrated, disappointed, we're angry. Typically, that's when we end up quitting something. And it's really those times when we need to lean in a little bit more and work through those emotions to get to the other side. And so the reason I wanted to title the book Never Quit on a Bad Day, and it's actually a book series, is because that title alone, even if you never open the book, which I do hope everyone reads the book because there's so much great content in both the books. But even if someone never reads the book, if they see it on a water bottle or they see the title of the book or they see it someone wearing a sweatshirt or a t-shirt with that saying, my hope and prayer is that saying sticks in that person's mind so that when they are facing challenges and they want to quit, they hear that saying, never quit on a bad day, and they push through it because that's usually when we grow the most. And that's usually when we just get to the other side of it. And then we can make a decision because there are times when we should quit something. I just encourage people to do it on a good day.
Wow. Okay. How did you well how did getting caught from teams or losing big games as an athlete prepare you for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. That's a great question. One of the things that I've realized as, a lot of times we get these realizations after we've gone through some of those moments. But one of the things that I have learned is I've lost some big games. I've been cut from a team. I've sat on a bench when I wanted to play. I've actually not even dressed for some games, which all those challenges, when you look at them, you can either be bitter or you can get better. And one of the things that my parents taught me very early on when I did get cut from a team was to focus on what I could control, which was my attitude, my work ethic, how my extra training. And so when I have been faced with challenges because of that really defining moment when I got cut from that team when I was 13 years old, and the way my parents handled that situation did definitely set me up for a lifelong career of navigating challenges and realizing to focus on what I could control. And so in all those hardships, it always was, okay, well, what can I learn from these situations? Obviously, there's the emotion with it as well, too. It's not that I didn't have any of those frustrating moments. I definitely did. And I felt those emotions. And I worked through them to get to the other side, and also learning the lesson in some of those hardships and what can I take away and how can I come back better and stronger. And so in losing some big games, it was always that, okay, how can we train harder? How can we get better? What can we learn from it? Once you've worked through the emotion and then coming back even stronger the next time.
Earlier on, you talked about never quitting on a bad day. You said most of the times when people quit, it's usually because they're having a bad day and they just end up training the toll. So the question I want to ask now is, during that period when they quit on a bad day, what is the kind of the false narrative that makes them make the mistake of quitting?
Yeah, I think part of it is that a lot of times when we have those negative emotions where we're coming from a place of a lot of times it might be frustration and depends what someone's quitting on. Let's say, for example, it might be someone quitting on a goal or quitting a job. It might be that, and this is why I say there are times to quit. However, if it's a time where you're feeling a lot of negative emotions, that frustration, anger, bitterness, resentment, anything that is kind of considered on the negative side, that's when I encourage people just to pause, just to really pause and move through those emotions. Get to the other side of it where you're at a place of, maybe it's neutral emotion. Doesn't say you have to be in like a joyful state, but you might just be a little bit more on the neutral side and then make that decision. Is it something that you really want to go after? For example, if it's a goal, let's say someone has a goal of something and they're working towards it. Now, if they're getting frustrated, the goal isn't happening fast enough, they're disappointed, that's not necessarily the time to quit. Work through those emotions, and then reevaluate. Maybe it's a goal that no longer aligns with your future for your vision for your future. So that might be a time to reevaluate it and change that goal. I just encourage people not to throw in the towel just because you're frustrated. Because frustration is part of sometimes the journey, right? There's a quote that says obstacles are those things that you have to work. I'm butchering the quote, but it's basically like obstacles are there to challenge us to see how badly we truly want to accomplish our goals and our dreams. And so
Mm,
that roadblock might just be a little, that's it. It might just be a speed bump that you can work through to get over and then keep going. And there's just, I encourage your listeners and viewers to really pause and think back to when we've had those tough times and we've worked through them, like how rewarding it is to know that you kept going even when you were frustrated, even when you were disappointed. You focused on the end result, put one foot in front of the other, and just kept moving forward.
yeah. One of the challenges we have is we're feeling when we're having a bad day, right? And this is not just regarding quitting. Also, when we're having a bad day, when we don't feel like we're creative anymore, we don't feel like we have what it takes anymore. How do we get out of that? That feeling, that mindset, that state of mind.
Absolutely. And I think everyone should have a few things that they can do to work through those different when we have those challenges. And we all have them where, you get hit with like, you're just like, ugh. One of the things change your state. And so that might be as simple as like just taking a break, go for a walk, go work out, do something, put on some music and dance. Just change your actual state in terms of movement. Because oftentimes when we do that, it just helps us shift our perspective a little bit. So number one, that's something that I do. I often like to just, if I'm having one of those moments where maybe something isn't coming together the way I'd like to, and I just need to refresh, if you will, I might go for a walk. I go to the gym. I'll listen to music. I always encourage people have a playlist in your phone that and fill it with songs that when you hear the song, you just start to smile or you just start to have a memory of some great experience that you have. Put on
Yeah.
that playlist is another way to do it. Just something that again will shift your state is really important. The other thing is gratitude. Just take a moment and write down everything that you're grateful for. It can be 5 things, it can be 10 things, it can be 100 things. Take a moment and really pause and just look at where you're at and all the things you've gone through to get to the point that you are right now and just be grateful. Find things and actually write it down because when we are in a spirit of gratitude, that again shifts our state and it shifts our focus to just give us a fresh perspective of everything that we have. And then sometimes it might just be, again, having a quick conversation with someone that you can lean on, in your network, who is someone who can tell you, hey, you know what, Wisdom, you're doing great things. I get it. You're having that moment. Just think of all the stuff you've done up until this point, and there's so much more ahead. So take a pause. You can do it, and let's get back to it, right? So we need those people around, and I like to call them our engines, those people that will, fuel us. They propel us forward. And so have a list of people who are your engines that you can reach out to at any time when we might be having those stuck moments. And most importantly, make sure you're an engine for other people as well. So that when someone you know in your network is having those challenges, that they know they can reach out to you and you're going to say, you know what, I get it. I've been there. You can do it. Let's go and reframe it.
Wow. One of Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. One of the biggest problem creators face is that it's not like they quit completely, but they are not consistent. You know, they show up this week and
Mhm.
then 2 months after they show up again, and the kind of work they need to do requires them to show up consistently. So for me, the question is,
Mhm.
you've been an athlete. For those, I'd love for you to, like, before you answer the question I'm about to ask, for you to like give us a quick rundown of your background in sports, and because when you mentioned what you did, you didn't just talk about about that aspect. So, because over the course of this conversation, we've been making a some comparison to your background in sports. So people start wondering, what's she into? But when she didn't mention that she's into sports and she was an athlete. She just said she was an entrepreneur and a coach and all that. Yeah. So for me, the question is, how did you? I wanted to, like, from the perspective of an athlete, how did you kind of kept going, showing up for the training and all that, even though you didn't feel like it. And as an athlete, you don't train today and then maybe 3 months later you say, okay, let me train again. No, you have to like keep showing up.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that I just encourage people, focus on your end goal. What is that goal that you want to accomplish? And in everything takes consistency. And what that consistency looks like for every person might be different depending on what your priorities are, depending what your ultimate goal is. So really look at that. What do you want to accomplish? And then work backwards from there. So you asked me a little bit about in terms of my athletic career. Well, I'm extremely fortunate and very grateful. I've had a wonderful athletic career in soccer, also football. And I played from a very young age and I've played on, I've won six or seven different national championship titles on
Wow.
different teams from, yeah, I'm just grateful, from university to women's premier to professional to masters twice. And I've been inducted into a few different Hall of Fame, some as a team induction with those championship teams, as well as an individual athlete. So I've just been incredibly, I'm so grateful for the teammates I've had, the coaches I've had. Again, my parents for that. They're all their support, and especially that defining moment when I was, got cut from a team. It hasn't always been an easy way, easy career, if you will. There's been a lot of times where I haven't made the starting lineup, and what did I have to do to make it? Work harder. So it really came down to focusing on that end goal of what I wanted to do. And for me, it's always been to be an impact player. When I got cut from that team at 13 years old, I made a goal that whatever team I was on, whatever amount of time I was given on the field, that I would be an impact player. And to me, that meant that I would make my presence known, felt, and seen. And so that's playing to the best of my ability. And for me to be able to do that, I have to train. Yes, we have scheduled training sessions. So giving my all when I'm not at my scheduled training sessions, but also the other things. So working on my touch with a ball myself. Sometimes it was me and my brother, or me and my dad and my brother. Oftentimes it was just myself on my own working on my touches. And so doing the extra fitness, the strength training. And so I say that all to say that it came down to, I had a goal to be an impact player, and I knew to be able to do that, I had to put in the work consistently, even the days I didn't want to do it. And of course, I'm human. There were days I didn't want to do it, and there's days that I didn't do it. That being said, there were more days that I did it than I didn't. And so that's what I encourage your content creator, like, to focus on what do you want to create, and then how are you going to get that result? It's by consistently showing up, but figuring out what does consistency look like for you, because all of us are going to have different levels of, in our terms of our schedule. We have different schedules, we have different priorities. And so taking a look at what that looks like for you, not comparing yourself to the next person. There's a quote that I love: comparison is the thief of all joy. And the reason I share that is when you compare yourself to someone else, well, you don't know their background, what they're going through, what they have, the resources, all of the above. So focus on being the best that you can be. And what does that look like for you?
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. Your experience is peculiar in such a way that it gets to inspire people. And that for me is something that is admirable, honestly.
Thank
Before
you.
before I proceed to ask other questions, out of curiosity, do you have a podcast?
It's interesting that you asked someone just the other, a couple of people have asked me that. I do not have my own podcast yet. It is something that I am considering down the road. Just right now, my focus is on a few other things. However, I'm open to it. Right now, I've just been being on guests on other people's podcasts. So it is
Yeah.
something though. We'll see.
Yeah, well, if you do, when you eventually decide to start the podcast, let me know because I'd love to interview you for my other podcast that interviews podcast hosts.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll definitely keep
Yeah,
that in mind.
you one of the things about sports is that as much as they want to celebrate even the best of the best, as much as they want to celebrate them as, oh, they win, oh, they do this, they also lose. Like, especially for using the example you gave, which is football, which and I think in America they call it soccer. Yeah, but yeah, we call it football. Even if you win most of the time, there are days when you lose. And how do you reframe the failure and the rejection? Because if we're doing something important, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's business, there are days when we'll get rejected. There are days when we'll put our heart into content and nobody would even watch it, and we look as if we're just speaking void. How do we reframe those losses, those failures, those rejections, such that it becomes fuel or fire to kind of like propel us instead of something that causes pain to us?
Absolutely. So I would say number one is, especially, like, what is your definition of failure or rejection? Like, what does that mean
Mm,
to that person? Number one, like, that's the first thing to think about. Now, we can use soccer or football. Yeah, when you go out and you play a game, if the other team scores 4 goals and you score 3, you actually did lose the game, right? Is that a failure? I don't see it as a failure. I see it as we lost the game. And knowing that you're playing a sport where there is going to be one team that wins, one team that loses, knowing that ahead of time, that you're not going to win every single game. As a content creator, every piece of content that you send out is not going to go viral. So knowing that ahead of time, now saying that, you still go into every game, or I go into every game fully expecting to win, putting my best foot forward, getting the team together so that we're all doing our best to play our very best. Yet we know that part of the sport, part of it is there are going to be those losses. That being said, what can you take away from them? Because I think when we sit there and we focus on something as being a failure, unless you can reframe the idea of failure and truly understand that on your way to success, that is failure. I remember seeing this image and it's always stuck with me because so often people think of successes on one end of the line and failures on the other. So if you failed, you went the opposite way to success. And there was this image that it was so powerful because it shows success here. And on the way to success, there's all these little failures. The word failure, 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 failure. And I actually recreated it for a course that I created because I wanted people to see that it's not success on one side, failure on the other side. Success on the way to success, there are going to be those failures. So what can you learn from them? Realize that it's all part of the journey. What can you learn from it? Embrace it and then move forward and move through it. Because if I allowed every loss to completely take me out, I wouldn't play the game. You don't get the wins without sometimes experiencing a loss here and there, right? And the same thing,
Yeah.
think about how rewarding it is when a piece of content does go viral or has this huge impact. Well, it's even more rewarding because you've gone through some of the ones that didn't quite hit or land the way you wanted it to. So I think part of it is recognizing that it's all part of the process. It's all part of the journey. You're not going to get out of it without having some of those bumps and being ready to embrace them and take what you can learn from them and move forward. So again, feel the emotions. Like I don't like to lose. So when, I play a game, if we end up not winning the game, I'm usually a little bit like, I have that moment, but then realizing,
Yeah.
you know what, there's another game. There's another game that I can focus on. So what can I do now to prepare for that? So I just encourage people to realize it's all part of the process.
Yeah. Has there ever been a time where you felt like you wanted to quit, whether it's business or maybe your entrepreneurship journey? Has there been a time? Can you can you share a specific
Oh my gosh. Okay, yes, absolutely. There are many times because again, it's part of the process where you do get frustrated. One of them I'll share that is in the first book in the Never Quit on a Bad Day book series. And it was, there was many times throughout my journey as an entrepreneur, I was building an online business that I did want to quit. But this one particular time, it was actually quitting on a goal. And so I had there was a contest that my company had released and I was working on the next promotion and they had an opportunity. It was like a 30-day window and I was 2 promotions from the top rank. And so I set this goal that I was going to hit both those promotions in the month to hit the top of the entire company. And so I was like laser focused. I rallied my team together. I'm going to give you guys the short version, full versions in the book. And there were so many obstacles that happened. And for one of them was I had in the beginning of the month, I knew if I hit my first promotion, the second from the top promotion in the beginning of the month, it would give me time to do the next one. And so I had calculated everything. The president of the company said, yes, I had hit it, then got called back the next day that they said, no, I did not hit that rank. So I had to do all these extra things to get it done, only to find out later in the month that the company had miscalculated something and I actually had hit it. And so it was just like this blow of disappointment that it was like, really? And I was so frustrated. And this is why I say it's so important who you surround yourself with, because I actually did decide not to pursue the second part of the goal. I said, you know what? It's okay. I'll do it another time. It's fine. And I heard, I was listening to this call with some people in the company, and one of them shared just it was the moment that I needed to hear it the most, and it just invigorated myself again. And I went, you know what? No, I'm going to go for it. So went for it. Hit the goal that month to promote to the next top rank in the company. And then I got a call from the founder of the company and there were some issues. And so I had to requalify all over again the next month. And it was like, again, another little punch in the gut again. I was like, I was just so frustrated. And again, I was like, you know what? I can do it another time. I'm not going to do it. And one of my friends had called and she called on a day where I had just heard the news and she goes, oh my gosh, congratulations. I heard. And I said, well, yes, but no, I have to qualify again. And I was crying because I was just so frustrated. I put so much into hitting it. And she gave me, the kick in the pants that I needed. And she just said, listen, you can do this. Like, yes, you're tired. Yes, you're frustrated. Yes, you're angry. Yes, it's not even fair to some extent. However, you can do this. And when we had that conversation, I wiped the tears and I went, you know what, I can do this. Let's go. And so went back to work and qualified again. And then it was announced that I hit the top rank in the company. And so, but that's just one example. And I mean, there's so many details in that of things that happen that shouldn't have happened. But sometimes those things do really challenge us to see how badly we want something. Are we willing to get back up even when our knees are bloody and they shouldn't be, it wasn't fair what happened? Are we still willing to keep showing up? And so that's just one example, but there's tons. It's part of being an entrepreneur. It's part of the journey. It's part of all of it. And I do believe it just makes the joys that much sweeter when we work through the tough stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that story. And yeah, it's one of those stories that I'll add to my collection of stories when I am having.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, in which is one of the peculiarities of soccer is that it's a team. People get to support each other. Now, as when we come to business, we come to content creation, online business, and all those kinds. Usually, most of the times, it's a lonely endeavor. Most of the times, how can we build a support system such that we have kind of like a team where that keeps us on track, helps us to stay resilient, and you know keep on.
Yeah, I think it's a team is so important, regardless of whatever you're doing. I believe in the power of teamwork and power of collaboration. So there's a couple options. I think as a content creator, you could choose to align yourself with other content creators and form like a mini mastermind where you guys are supporting each other, trading ideas, sharing strategies, encouragement, right? Successes, celebrating one another. So that could be something where you actually form a mini mastermind with people in the same industry. Or you form a mastermind with people in complementary industries. So you guys can still share and help each other, but you may not be in the exact same industry. For example, I was at, well, we're kind of in similar in terms of the speaking world. That being said, I went to a conference last year for speakers, one with a friend, met another friend, and from that, we actually formed a mini mastermind. Now, our mini mastermind, we just do check ins. We have a WhatsApp group. We check in every week. We share our intentions for the week, and then we report back the following week. Now, we're all speakers, but we actually speak to different groups. We have different topics, and it's just a way for us to support each other with ideas. When we have a win, we can share it with each other. We can, send each other. Sometimes we'll send each other our speaking topics as just like, hey, what do you think about this title for a presentation? And it's a way that we
Yeah.
can encourage each other and keep ourselves inspired. So, and I mean, I'm part of actually a couple different masterminds because, again, I love teamwork and I believe I can learn and grow from different people and I can provide value as well too. So I would just encourage everyone to find a tribe of people who it could be that mastermind's 3 of us, but then I've been part of other ones for different periods of time that have more people. So really finding your groove, what works best for you to help you stay accountable. We talked about the consistency piece earlier. One of the ways that you can help yourself be consistent is to have accountability partners, people who you say you're going to do something that will be there to be like, hey, Phoebe, you said you're going to do this week. How come you didn't get it done? Right. Or that you can report back to them and let them know that, hey, I did this, or I said I was going to do this. However, I shifted to do this, or whatever it might be. So I just really do encourage people to be intentional about creating a group of people who you can support and that they can also support you.
Wow. So I'm curious. Why do you think a lot of so many creators they try to do it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people like to do a lot of stuff alone. They attempt to. For I think it's different reasons for every person. Sometimes it might come from a scarcity mentality, thinking that I have to keep all my ideas to myself. Someone else is going to steal them, not being able to trust other people. Sometimes it's that mentality, which is unfortunate, but I understand because sometimes if you have been, if we want to use the term burned with or a relationship that was broken or whatever might have happened, sometimes people are a little bit more guarded. So I do understand that. I just think that we have to figure out how to, number one, forgive and move forward from past hurts and situations. And then choose who you align yourself with. Like choose to find great people who believe in abundance, who know that there's enough out there for all of us and that choose to lean into that belief of abundance versus a scarcity mentality. And you will find that if, again, we attract who we are. So it comes first from us. If we truly have an abundance mentality, we'll be able to find other people who have that as well too. So I believe that the reward it far outweighs the risk, and when you can come together and collaborate, it's so powerful. It's so powerful to have a group of people who you're pouring into them, and they're also pouring back into you.
Wow. What would be your advice for those creators who they feel lonely and probably they have a vision and for most of the time they are misunderstood in their own journey. So people don't.
So people don't really get them. I guess I would say who are the people that they're around that aren't getting them, and are those their people, right? So I think that's part of it is finding
Yeah.
your group of people because if they're not, and it depends. It depends what you're putting out there, what it is. But there are people who you're looking for the people who are looking for you, and so sometimes that
Mm,
takes right? And that's a process and being
write
okay
that
with
down.
you're looking for people who are looking for you. It is important to realize that. And not everybody is looking for you, and not everybody's gonna align with your content. Not everyone is going to align with what you're doing, your vision, you were given that vision for a reason. And so now it's trusting that, believing that, walking in that, and finding the people who align with that. And remembering that it takes time. I shared this in my newsletter this week because I was down in Barbados really quickly. And my family's from Barbados. I've been to Barbados numerous times. And there's an area in Barbados, beautiful tourist attraction called Harrison's Cave. And this cave is filled with stalagmites and stalactites. And one of the things that the tour guide, when we're going through it, shared is she shared that they grow It's less than the thickness of a piece of paper per year. And this time when I heard it, it just landed in such a different way where it stuck with me. So less than the thickness of a piece of paper every year, these incredible formations are growing. And it's because the rain falls through the forest, it seeps into the coral rock, and then it creates these beautiful formations. And when she said it, it just stuck with me because I thought about a quarter or the thickness of a piece of paper. That's tiny. But this
Yeah.
consistency, consistent drops create this formation. And that's like us with our goals, with our dreams, with it's a process. Yet if we consistently move forward, just consistently move forward bit by bit, we are creating incredible formations in terms of our dreams and our goals. It's just a matter of realizing that it's a process. It's not going to boom happen overnight. It could in terms of content. Yes, something could go viral. Absolutely. Just know though that every time you're putting something out there, it's like that little drop that's adding to that stalagmite that's growing. It's just growing bit by bit. So be encouraged by that process. And it helped me like hearing it because I am such a go getter and sometimes things don't happen as quickly as I want them to happen. And so it came at a time where I needed to hear that. And hopefully that encourages someone listening as well, too, where it was that reminder of like, yes, it's a process. How can I embrace it? How can I enjoy this process while I'm going after my goals and dreams?
Yeah. Thank you so much for she. How do we know when to push through versus when we should just
Sorry, say that
even
again?
athletes they have off so how do we know when to push through versus when to rest? Even athletes they have
Absolutely. I don't know the answer for that. I feel like it's something we have to just trust our gut and our instinct about if you're feeling that. And again, I think it also comes from a place of your emotions, right? Are you in a good place, but you're just feeling like, you know what, I just need to pause. I just need to pause. I need a little time. Is it, on your schedule, like a weekly schedule where you have one day, which is kind of your day of rest? Or is it you've gone hard for a 90-day sprint and now you want to take a little break? I believe everybody has to figure that out for themselves. I don't know. And if someone is listening, they know how to figure that out, let me know. I've always just kind of trusted my instinct, pray about it and see if you feel like, you're feeling like, okay, maybe this is the time just to step back a little bit. And what are you doing during that rest? Because yes, athletes have days of rest, absolutely, but they also have active rest too, which might still include movement. It just might not be the same intensity as a full training session, but you might go for a walk. So is it a time of complete rest? Is it a time of active rest? Is it a time of recovery? So I think if we're talking about as an entrepreneur, I think we have to make those decisions as to what season are we in and is it a time where we need to, refocus in a different direction for a short period of time, whether that is something that's an active rest or a recovery or a complete pause.
yeah. What's your daily negotiable habits for mental?
Daily non-negotiables for mental toughness. That's a great question. I'm not sure if I have something that's daily or is just now ingrained. Part of it is working out. So I do boot camp 5 to 6 days a week. So I do have a day off where I usually will still do some form of movement. It just won't be at the same intensity as that boot camp. That for me is something that definitely tests my mental strength, also my physical, but my mental strength in terms of that consistency, going, showing up, training hard. I find every workout challenging. And so it really does test my mental strength to keep going and to keep pushing through. I would say another thing for me is prayer. Prayer for me is a way to, continue to strengthen my mind in terms of praying and asking for guidance, praying for strength, praying for wisdom, praying for resilience, praying for patience, all of the above. And then I would also say gratitude because I do every single day, multiple points throughout the day. It started off as a calendar invite in my phone for myself so that every day at 9:10 p.m. Pacific, my calendar invite would go off that would have an appointment with myself to have a moment of gratitude. And it's still a reminder that goes off every single day. And now I do it multiple times through the day where I just take a moment to think about what am I grateful for? And the reason I do that is because I do think when we're in a place of gratitude for what we have and gratitude and gratefulness for where we're going and what we've experienced in our past as well, it does keep us mentally strong to be able to keep pushing forward because we know we've been through tough things in the
Yeah.
past. We know we're going to go through more tough things. And then if you're just focusing on what you're grateful for right in that moment, for me anyways, it does help me move through in terms of feeling grateful for what I've created and more to come. So I guess those would be
Yeah.
3 sort of non-negotiable mental and then listening to positive stuff. I do always have actually, as we're talking about it, there are more things that are coming to mind. But yeah, listening to positive podcast and just YouTube, always making sure that I have something that I'm listening to that is positive, encouraging, where I'm learning, I'm growing, as well as obviously reading too.
Yeah. I would love for us to do something exciting. I don't know if you're down for it. Can you read some of your? I know this will be kind of. Can you read some of your favorite excerpts from your book?
Oh, sure. Yeah, let me grab
Okay.
one. I'm not sure what. Let's do this. Do you want to how about you pick a page? Let's do this. You pick a page from page 8 to 170. Pick a page and then I'll read something from that page.
Oh. Okay. Today's date is 24. Okay.
24. Okay. So hilarious. 24 is a blank page right here.
Ah, that's the
So
sign.
let's
That's the
let's
sign.
go.
We're starting
That's a
with
sign.
a blank
Go
page.
back.
Only
Let's go
unlimited
to 23.
possibilities.
Yes, it
Okay.
is. Okay.
Okay.
So let's do this. I'm going to read from, that's not really a part. Hold on. Pick another number, please, Wisdom. Go ahead.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Currently the okay. 20.
25. Okay. 25 is the title page. So we can start with,
Ooh. Ooh.
keep going.
Wow,
Another
what's
number,
going
another
on?
number.
Okay, give me 70.
Okay, perfect. Here we go. So let me just give a little context for the book. So this is the second book that came out in the Never Book Quit on a Bad Day book series. So it's featuring stories from accomplished athletes. So there's a range of different athletes who all contribute a short story. At the end of every chapter, there's a section called Reflections on Resilience, which is for the reader, and there's a lesson in it. So this particular page that you chose is from chapter 4. And chapter 4, the contributor is Julia Budd, a very accomplished MMA fighter in Muay Thai and MMA. Incredible mixed martial art champion, has done incredible things. And so I'm going to share a little bit from her story because that's on the page that you chose. So um, we're going to go from after that fight with Rusi, I dedicated the next year to learning more wrestling and grappling. And so a little bit of context. So she had went prepared for a fight and she lost that fight very, very badly, very quickly. And so she's kind of sharing that. So after that fight, I just dedicated the next year to learning more wrestling and grappling. And I would go on to being 9 years undefeated. I credit that win streak to losing 2 important fights that first year that really helped me evolve my game. In 2017, I was crowned Bellator MMA featherweight champion and held that title until 2020. So because I didn't quit, I am a 4-time world champion. My favorite quote has inspired me throughout my journey to becoming a champion in my sport is by Muhammad Ali. The fight is won or lost far away from the witnesses, behind the lines, in the gym, and out there on the road, long before I dance under those lights. It's so true. The hard work is done out of sight, and the drive to consistently show up and do the work is what will put you on top. It's humbling to see the media and others say that I've made a profound impact on the sport, particularly within the featherweight division, and talk about distinguished performances and significant victories. But it's also what I've worked for my entire life. So I'm proud of my journey. I wanted to be a trailblazer in my chosen sport, and I feel like I've succeeded. So that is a little bit of Julia Budd's story.
Yeah, I was about asking you before the breaking transmission if you have an audiobook because I'd just love to like hear you reading the book.
So audiobook. You know what? I don't yet. And it's funny that you asked me that because part of the reason I didn't initially was because I wasn't sure if, because the way the books are set up, they're a collection of short stories from other contributors. And initially, I wasn't sure if me reading it would land the same way because I'm reading it on behalf of someone else. That being said, you having me read it, I was like, you know what? That kind of adds another layer to it. So it is something now that I'm going to consider and decide if I might want to do an audiobook and have myself read it. And then I can do because the section for reflections on
Yeah,
resilience
yeah.
is really powerful for readers to write through. That could be
It's funny. It's
a separate
funny
PDF
because
with it.
you
So thank you.
like
Thank
I'm
you.
an
Yeah.
idea is just running through my head, and I'm just going to put it out there. Is you could basically do a podcast for the book, and I don't know how that would work, the logistics, but where you each of the chapter you just talk about some of the stories, and yeah, and people could basically listen to it when they're going to work every morning, in the evening,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's something they
Yeah,
would
it's
just be
possible.
binge listening over and over again.
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it is something that as we're talking about it, and as I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
reading, I was like, "Oh, maybe
Your
this is
your your
something
voice has
I could
this
do the readings
um
for
how do
the
I
whole
explain
thing."
it?
So, we'll see.
It has
We'll see. I'll
this
keep you
calm to
posted.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. I received that, so thank you.
Last question I want to ask is if someone is out there right now and they I know you've said a lot of things about content creators working and doing the showing up, being consistent. If they're out there and they're back quitting, they're back giving up, just talk to them directly and tell them what do you have to say to them.
Ask them, why are they a content creator? What was the reason they started in the first place? Why do they want to do this? And really to sit with that and peel back all the layers, the initial a lot of times when we're looking at why, someone will ask that and the first thing is, well, because da, 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 da. And it's like, okay, well, why? Well, da, da, da. Okay, why? And just keep asking yourself why. Drill down on that why until you really know you doing what you're doing. And once you have a very strong, clear why, it'll either fire you up to keep going, or you might realize that maybe it isn't the right path for you at this time. And then you figure out what else you want to do. The biggest thing that I encourage people to do, though, and this is why I say if you're going to quote unquote quit something, do it on a good day and do it when you're moving forward towards something else. So it's not just to like, well, I had this goal to go to the gym and I changed my mind, so I just quit. Okay, well, what are you doing instead? Like figure out, why and really it shouldn't be as simple as just quitting, but if you have a strong why are you going to the gym? Is it because of your health? But why? Why do you want to have great health? So that I can show up for my friends and family. Well, why? Why is that important to you? And really drill down on that. And then you'll see, maybe it's not going to the gym, maybe it's a different form of activity, maybe it's a different thing. So it's not saying that you have to stay on this path. That being said, figure out why you chose to start on this path, get crystal clear with it, and it will either
Yeah.
fire you up
Thank you
or
so
it'll
much
drive you to another
for
way that you
that
can accomplish that
for sharing
same
that
why.
exercise. Wow. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, for sharing um for sharing your story and for reading from your book. Thank you so much. I'm curious to know, you said the book is a series. How many parts
You're welcome. My
in the
pleasure.
series?
Yeah, so far there's 2. There's 2 books. The first one features stories from thriving entrepreneurs, and the second one features stories from accomplished athletes. That being said, you definitely don't have to be an entrepreneur or an athlete to find value in either book. They're really for people who have a goal, are going after that goal. Maybe they've hit a bump in the road, or maybe they're flying high and they want to stay there. It's really for anyone to provide encouragement and tips and tools on how to work through those tough things as they come. And my original vision is 4 books in the series. So I've completed
Yeah,
2,
yeah.
2
Wow.
more in the
Thank you
future,
very much.
and
And
we'll see from there.
the book itself, I'm already after the podcast, I'll go check it out. And yeah, I just have it. But it would have been nice if I had an audio version, so I could just while I'm washing the dishes, doing other things, I could just be listening to it. Yeah. I'm honest.
Good listen. Absolutely. Well, you're
Yeah,
inspiring me. I'm gonna
the
look
kind this kind
into
of book is
the
not
audiobook
exactly
process, so thank you for
the
that.
type of book you sit down to consume everything. It's a series of stories. It's more like, okay, today you take one of the story and say, okay, tomorrow you take, so it's one of those things. It's not a book you just sit down and say, okay, well, you could finish it, but it's meant for a book you go back over and over again every time nowadays to remind yourself that, oh yeah, to stay on track. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing and not holding back, and for sharing your
Absolutely.
stories, and for sharing
Thank you.
some of the exercises and frameworks. If someone wants to learn more about what you do and check out your stuff, where can they do that?
Absolutely. So my website is
Wow.
very easy to remember. It's neverquitonabadday.com. So you can check it out. You can download a free chapter of the book as well. You can learn more about the
Wow.
contributors, and you can also
Yeah,
connect on
I
social
like. I
media.
think.
Never quit on a
I
bad
think
day.
it's a big flex to have a domain name that's easy to pronounce, easy to spell, easy to easy to remember. Yeah, honestly. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Wisdom Journey, the podcast for content creators. If today's episode sparked ideas, subscribe and leave a review. Share it with a fellow creator who might benefit. Check the show notes for links and resources. If you'd like to support the show, buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/wisdomhq. Follow us on social media to stay connected. Until next time, keep creating and seeking wisdom in your journey.